This video will give you some instructions that hopefully will help explain the checking account and debit card simulation that you'll be working on this week. The project that you're working on is going to be completed for a person by the name of Sally Smith. So all of the transactions that you record in this simulation, we will assume that you are Sally. On the first page of the practice set, you'll see the transactions that will be recorded for the month of September for Sally's checking account or debit card action. So you'll see that each transaction is listed by date in chronological order, starting out with September 2nd. If you notice on the instructions, let's go through that one together. It says, endorse Sally's September paycheck for $154.01 from Piggly Wiggly with a blank endorsement and complete the deposit slip. If we go to the next page, you'll see at the top of the page, here's a copy of Sally's check for the $154.01. Directly below that is some information for her annual pay, year to date, taxes that were withheld from this pay period, and so on. Below that, in the center of the page where you see the letter X, that is where Sally would endorse this check. It's the back side of the check, and she would endorse that with a blank endorsement. After endorsing it, then you'll see at the bottom of the page the deposit slip. So Sally will identify the check where it says checks list singly. She will then get the subtotal, which is down near the bottom of the page, which would be the same amount, and then finally the net deposit for the $154.01. The date over on the left side, let's use September 2nd. Let's use the same date as the date of the transaction to complete that portion. Because Sally is not receiving any cash, she wouldn't actually have to sign the deposit ticket. You could, but unless cash is received, that's not necessary. Once the deposit slip is completed, then we want to go down to the checkbook register, and notice in the checkbook register that Sally is starting out with $100 in her account. So the first transaction that you'll be recording in your check register will be for September 2nd. It'll be the deposit, and then you'll need to bring that balance forward, remembering that she starts out with $100 in her checking account. After you've completed that transaction, I would go back and I would check off the September 2nd transaction off this instruction sheet, this direction sheet, just so that you know that that's been completed and recorded. Follow that same process for each one of the transactions. Now, I believe there's one conflicting date. It's either September 27th or 29th. The date in the practice set will be different. Use the transaction dates that are listed on this page because then they'll be in chronological order. Once the practice set is completed and all of your checks have been written, deposits have been made, the next thing is step 2, which you need to reconcile her checkbook with the bank statement. If you go further into your practice set, you will see, I think it's about page 8, you'll find the bank statement that will show a balance that in the bank statement it says $210.32. That will differ from Sally's checkbook register. Your job is to reconcile that account and identify which checks are outstanding and which ones have been paid by the bank. And the form that you'll use is on the next page, and that's reconciling a checking account. The withdrawals outstanding or the outstanding checks will be listed on the left. If there are any outstanding deposits, those would be listed on the right. And finally, the section below that will be the information that will make the adjustments to either the bank statement or her checkbook register. The bottom line where it says calculate total should be the same as the checkbook register. Those two numbers, when you're finished reconciling, then should agree. And finally, the last page of the practice set here are simply some questions. And there's one question at the top you may not be familiar with, so I'm going to help you out with that. It says, describe what is written on the back of a deposit slip. Well, the back side of a deposit slip is used for recording multiple checks. So let's say that you had 3 or 4 checks that you were going to be depositing. you would list those separately on the back side, and then on the front, you list the total of those individual checks listed, because the front side doesn't give you a lot of space to record information. Therefore, you list those on the back. So I hope that's helpful in completing the checkbook simulation. It's about, I believe, a 45-point assignment. So go back, double check your figures, make sure that everything is neatly done. Either submit that by scanning it and then putting it in the Dropbox, or it could also be faxed as the number on the lesson plan website indicates. All right, hope you have a good week. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me.